Tonight, you will walk into a dark room and your hand will move to the light switch before you even think about it. You won't question it. You won't wonder why. But the real answer is far stranger than you expect, and it has nothing to do with the dark itself. You are not afraid of darkness. You are afraid of what darkness hides. Think about that for a second. A dark room is empty. Nothing has changed except your ability to see it. The furniture is the same. The air is the same. Your dog is still asleep in the corner, and yet your heart rate climbs. Your shoulders tighten. Somewhere deep in your chest, a switch flips. Where did that switch come from? Scientists have actually measured this. In the late 1990s, researcher Christian Grillon ran a series of experiments where he exposed people to sudden bursts of noise, first in a lit room, then in total darkness. He measured something called the startle-reflex, that automatic full-body flinch you feel when something surprises you. In the dark, that flinch got stronger. Not because the noise changed, because the light did. Your nervous system was treating darkness itself as a threat multiplier. This is not a modern glitch. This is an inheritance. For most of human history, night was the most dangerous part of the day. Your eyes are built for daylight. 3 cone types, tuned for color and detail, useless once the sun drops. But the predators hunting your ancestors were not built the same way. Big cats, hyenas, wolves, all of them evolved eyes packed with rod cells, built specifically to see in low light. When night fell, the balance of power flipped completely. You went from hunter to prey in the span of a sunset. So the fear you feel walking down a dark hallway is not irrational. It is a memory. Not a memory of an event, but a memory written into your biology by thousands of generations who did not survive the night. Here is where it gets interesting. Evolutionary psychiatrist Randolph Nesse has a name for this kind of fear. He calls it the smoke detector principle. A smoke detector is designed to go off far more often than there is an actual fire, because the cost of a false alarm, an annoying beep, is nothing compared to the cost of missing a real fire. Your fear response works the same way. Evolution did not build you to be accurate. It built you to be cautious. 1,000 false alarms are cheaper than 1 missed predator. That is why an empty dark room can still make your pulse spike, even when you know, logically, that nothing is there. Your brain is not asking, is there definitely a threat? Your brain is asking, can I afford to be wrong? You can't. Or at least, your ancestors couldn't. Now here's the twist most people never hear about. Some researchers believe this fear system is even older than humans themselves. Primatologist Lynn Isbell developed something called the snake detection theory, which argues that snakes, ambush predators that thrive in low visibility and camouflage, were one of the earliest and most consistent threats to primates for tens of millions of years. Her research suggests this pressure may have actually shaped the evolution of primate vision, sharpening our ability to detect subtle shapes and movement, the exact skill that becomes useless the moment the lights go out. In other words, the fear you feel in the dark might not just be about wolves and hyenas. It might reach back further than humanity itself, to a time before we were even primates walking upright, when the greatest danger was something coiled and silent, waiting in the leaves. Your brain doesn't know the difference between then and now. It runs the same ancient program regardless of the century. Think about what that means. You live in a house with locks on the doors. You have a phone in your pocket that can summon help in seconds. Statistically, you are safer right now than almost any human who has ever lived. And yet you still check under the bed. You still hesitate before walking into a dark basement. You still feel that flicker of unease when the power goes out. That flicker is not weakness. That flicker is 40,000 generations of ancestors who survived long enough to have children, passing their caution down to you like a genetic heirloom. But here's the strange part. Children develop this fear on a very specific timeline. Nyctophobia, the clinical term for fear of the dark, tends to appear consistently around age 2, right as toddlers start developing enough imagination to fill darkness with something. Not because they've been taught to fear it, because their brains are finally sophisticated enough to do what yours does automatically. Imagine what could be there. Darkness has always been less about the absence of light and more about the presence of uncertainty. And uncertainty is the one thing your brain has never learned to tolerate well. This is where the ancient fear starts to look a lot like something more modern. Because you don't just fear dark rooms, you fear dark unknowns of every kind. An unanswered text message, an ambiguous comment from your boss, a medical test result you're still waiting on. None of these things involve actual darkness. All of them trigger the same low hum of unease, the same mental scanning for threats, the same inability to relax until the picture becomes clear. Your brain treats uncertainty like a predator hiding in the shadows, because for most of your evolutionary history, it often was. Consider that the next time you feel that particular kind of anxious energy, the one that comes from not knowing rather than from knowing something bad. That is the smoke detector still running its ancient program, still scanning for shapes in the dark, whether the dark is a hallway or an inbox. You were never really afraid of the dark. You were afraid of what you couldn't predict, couldn't measure, couldn't control. Darkness was simply the first and oldest version of that feeling, the original test case your ancestors' brains were built around, long before uncertainty ever wore the shape of a phone screen or a closed office door. Tonight, when you flip that light switch without even noticing you did it, you are not performing a modern habit. You are completing a ritual older than language itself, older than fire, older than the species you belong to. A ritual whose only purpose is to answer one ancient question your ancestors asked every single night of their lives. Is it safe now? And every time the light floods the room, some quiet, ancient part of you finally exhales.